Hello, I'm Malcolm here, and welcome to my channel. I know some of you just wanna rush click any part of this video, but please watch the intro first. This video has a clickbait title. Sorry, Nephews. I mean, it actually does it because although most weapons abilities covered here can be detected if you follow the item's description or something like that, others don't have a single hint of what it's capable of. So we can say I will be covering hidden and not so obvious abilities that some weapons have. Items covered in this video are weapons, shields, bows, crossbows, circuit seals, and staves from the main and the DLC that falls in one of these criteria. It has the ability or trait that isn't covered anywhere in the game, so the only way you can know that it has something going for it would be testing it or reading somewhere on the internet. An example for this criteria can be something as simple as the Knight Ride's glaive having bonus damage while mounted on turret, or something a bit more complex like the pickaxe, which is a great hammer that can only be power sensed with another pickaxe, or Greataxes. Yep, I have no idea why it works like that. Another criteria is having the ability or trait that you can read on the description or find hints about it somewhere else, but it's not very clear what it does, and it could have some extra information about it. It can range from weapons that do extra damage against certain type of enemies, like the Dragon Great Claw heavy bonds against dragons, or some other quirks that, to remove any doubt about what it does exactly, I will explain in details, like the Blasphemous Blade ability to heal both on kill or hit. I will also be showing weapons that have misinformation on the description or stats, like the Jellyfish Shield description says that it lacks protection against pierce damage, but it actually blocks 100% of all physical damage. Lol. And the final one being more of a gimmick or quirk thing, not that important, but also not so obvious. One example being that the Rotten Staff skill doesn't do Excited Rod build up, while all other attacks do. This video covers a lot of weapons, Nephews, and I'll probably let some slip through my research. So if you know one that isn't covered in this video, let me know in the comments below that I will gather this extra information and probably do an updated version of this in the near future. But please, spare your Cheetos covered fingers if you're going to type something like Rivers of Blood or other obvious shit that doesn't even do anything special. Anyway, there are a lot of weapons to talk about here. Therefore, I'm going to be as quick as I can on each one of them. That means the footage of this video will be also kinda simple, just showing the character holding the item. I think. Most likely. Also, my voice is most likely to change out of nowhere because I'm sure I'm gonna have to record these lines in so many sections. So let's start with the daggers. And the first one is the Wakizashi. What is unique about this dagger is that not only can be power sensitive with other daggers, but also katanas. Yes, Nephews, it's pronounced katana. How do I know it? You see, I'm half Japanese myself. When you power sense 2 Wakizashi, they will have the katana moveset, so you'll be nerfing yourself by doing that. Celebrant Sickle is one of the 4 Celebrant weapons in the game. What these weapons do is give their wielders runes for every hit they land on an enemy. For this particular weapon, the amount is 10 runes per hit. There is no delay between hits to count towards this bonus, so power sensitive Celebrant Sickles is the fast way to acquiring runes. Next is the Twinblades. Yes, that's how it's pronounced, Nephews. How do I know? I'm half Italian. The Twinblades boosts bestial incantations by 10%. This boost stacks with the Clawmark Seal, which is a sacred seal that boosts these incantations by additional 10%. If you wonder what is the best, having a Clawmark Seal and a Twinblades equipped, or 2 Clawmark Seal, the answer is that in both situations the damage will be the same. The Reduve skill called Reduve Bloodblade is boosted by Ansbach armor set. In case you don't know, the Wise Man mask boosts by 5% and the remaining pieces by 3% each. They stack multiplicatively with one another, so you will end up with 14.75% when you use the full set. And the last dagger to cover is the Mangush. I'm half French myself. The Mangush can only be power stance with thrusting swords. If you try to power stance with another dagger, they won't have the dagger power stance moveset and will attack like they are from different classes. Power stance 2 Mangush will give you the thrusting sword moveset. Now let's move to the straight sword class. There are quite a few to cover here. Starting with 2 swords that have the same peculiar heavy attack, the Lazuli Glintstone Sword and the Carian Knight Sword. When you perform one heavy attack, be it charge on charge, one hand or 2, the wind up animation works as a block move until near the end when the attacks come out. Shut up, stupid bird. Keep in mind that this blocking ability is basically the same as trying to block with these swords, meaning that they are not that great on this task. I refuse this bird is gonna be screaming my window now.
Be gone, fuck!
Guard counter or anything related to the block animation of these peculiar heavy attacks cannot be buffed in any form. Next we have the Golden Epitaph. This sword has two things going for it. First, it has the passive damage boost of 30% against undead enemies, and it also prevents skeletons from reviving. And second is its skill, Last Rites. It's an aura buff that increases damage against undead by 100% and prevents them from reviving. It also adds a flat 25 in holy damage and a boost of 10% in damage for weapons. Lasts for 1 minute. Keep in mind that for this being an aura buff, it replaces the popular Golden Vow. This weapon skill is the best answer when facing the undead, which are the following enemies: skeletons, death birds, spirit caller snails, grave birds, and ghost flame dragons. Although cemetery shades are not classified as undead, this weapon and many others that deal holy damage are still very efficient against them because they are very weak to that kind of damage. And the next weapon is the Coded Sword. There are some things worth pointing out about this weapon. First is that its attack phases the wall geometry. That means your attacks never bounce off walls or have surfaces like Greatshields. Second, this weapon cannot be parried. And finally, this weapon is not that efficient dealing with the undead, even though its damage is 100% holy. I read some people saying that it's because it's a Earth True weapon and not from the Golden Order, but I call that bullshit because both weapons deal holy damage. It's like saying a 9mm bullet deals more damage from a submachine gun than a pistol. Regalia of Aeocate's skill, called Aeocate's Dancing Blade, is boosted by the Dancer set. Each piece of this set increases damage by 2%. Two more straight swords to cover, both are from the DLC. The first one is Sword of Light. What is worth in talking about it is its skill. It is not just an attack skill, it also gives the user a boost that increases holy damage by 20%. So if you are looking for ways to increase holy damage, try to fit this weapon into your build. And the last straight sword to cover is the counterpart of the one we just saw, the Sword of Darkness. Again, what is worth pointing out here is its skill, that can be used with the Sword of Light to maximize holy damage. What the skill does is decrease by 20% the holy damage resistance of an enemy that gets hit by it. Let's move on to the straight swords big brothers, the Greatsword. Starting with the Gargoyle's Black Blade. What I would like to point out about this weapon is that its skill, although it looks like it deals destiny, death, health debuff like the Black Kindred that use it, that's not the case. So keep that in mind. The Inseparable Sword has a passive bonus of 20% against the undead. In case it wasn't very clear, D is a D to the undead. Sword Amulets give 5 focus points whenever the wielder of this weapon kills an enemy. This bonus works when the weapon is equipped offhand. The skill of this weapon, called Shriek Amulets, increases damage of the sword by 7.5% and gives us an extra 5 strength for the duration of 40 seconds. The heavy attack of the Sword Amulets is replaced by a 3-hit combo that can be boosted by the Roar Medallion Talisman and the Highland Axe. Switching to another weapon removes this buff. It also affects all enemies nearby when the skill is activated with a debuff that decreases all damage negation by 15%. The Alabaster Lord Sword is the first of many weapons that deal bonus against gravity enemies. In case of this weapon, the bonus is 20% increase in damage. Gravity enemies are Onyx Lords, Alabaster Lords, Fallen Star Beasts, Astals, Malformed Star, and Meteor Motherfinger. Oh, is that a spoiler? Like I care. Next is Blasphemous Blade. This weapon focuses on healing its user. There is a passive ability that heals 4% of total health plus a flat 40 when the wielder of this weapon manages to kill an enemy. It doesn't have to be the Blasphemous Blade dealing the final blow, as long as it is equipped the ability will work. Also getting a hit using the skill of this weapon. Yes, a hit, not a kill. The user will be healed by 10% of their total health plus a flat 150. Keep in mind that Power Sense 2 Blasphemous Blade does not increase the healing. If you want a more healing per kill, try using the Serpent's Guard Curved Sword, Taker's Cameo Talisman, and Ryket's Great Rune. The Golden Order Greatsword is another weapon that deals extra damage against the undead. For this weapon, the boost is 20%. And the last Greatsword is the Marais Executioner's Sword. Its skill, called Dancing Blade of Aeocate, can be boosted by the Dancer set. Each piece boosts the damage by 2%, just like the one from Regalia of Aeocate. Let's move on to the Colossal Swords. There is just one weapon to cover here, the Star-Scourged Greatsword. This is another gravity weapon that deals bonus damage against gravity enemies. For this weapon, the bonus is 30%, which is the highest of all gravity weapons. The next class to cover is the Thrusting Swords, that also has just one weapon, and that is the Carrion Sorcery Sword that came with the DLC. This weapon has attacks, works like a sorcery catalyst, and although it cannot be infused with Ashes of War or buff any spells or consumable, it uses Smith Stones to be upgraded. Yeah, just woke up for a little nap, Nephews. Whoops. Again, the next class to cover just happens to have one weapon, the Dragon King's Crackblade. This is the first group of weapons that deal bonus damage against dragon enemies. In case of this particular weapon, the bonus is 30% against common dragons. These are dragons made out of flesh, like Glintstone dragons, Agu, Exix or Exax, I don't know how to pronounce this guy, and Bale, example. And 15% damage bonus against ancient dragons. Those are the dragons made of stones, like Lansax, Fortsax, Senasax, and the ones found in Crumbling Fire of Azula. Gigachak Placidosax is a unique dragon that doesn't fall in either category. Next weapons to cover are the Curved Swords. Starting with the Shota, it makes part of a family of weapons that partially ignores damage block. This type of bonus is common amongst the Reapers, that I will check later. For the Shoto, this ability ignores 40% of damage block. Next is the Flowing Curved Sword. Heaven and skill damage of this weapon are boosted by the Dancer's set. The Serpent God Curved Sword has the ability to heal its wielder by 2.5% of maximum health, plus a 25 when they kill an enemy. Power Stance doesn't double the effect, but it can be used together with other items that heals on kill, like Blasphemous Sword, Camille's Sacred Talisman, and Riker's Great Rule. Nox Flowing Sword is another weapon that ignores 40% of damage block. Next, we have the Wengel Astel, which is a gravity weapon. That means it deals 20% more damage against gravity enemies. The Eclipse Shoto has the same bonus of ignoring 40% of damage block, just like the normal Shoto. And the final curved sword to cover is the Dancing Blade of Rana. This one is a bit more obvious. Both skills and heavy attacks of this weapon are boosted by the Dancer's set. Next on the list are the Great Curved Swords. Not exactly something hidden, but rather something rare. The Bloodhound's Fang is one of the 3 weapons that uses Smith Stones that can be buffed with magic or consumables. It is also super easy to insult users of this weapon. Words like noob, tryharder, and uncreative do the job quite well. The Onyx Lord Greatsword is another gravity weapon that boosts damage against its namesake enemies by 20%. And the final Great Curved Sword to cover is Freya's Greatsword. It has the passive ability to boost Red Mage's skill by 10%. Red Mane skills are Flame Under Red Manes, Lion's Claw, Savage Lion's Claw, and Roaring Bash. Now let's move on to the Katanas. Yes, Katanas, the weaved weapons. And for the love of God, stop saying Katana, it makes me wanna peel off my own face. The first katana to cover is the Nagakiba. If you wanna pronounce the Nagakaiba, you can, because this weapon does exist. The weapon itself has nothing hidden about it, other than it has an Ash of War called Piercing Fang that can be removed from it to be applied to other weapons, including non-katana weapons. Meteoric Ore Blade is another gravity weapon. The damage boost against gravity enemies is 20%. And finally, Rivers of Blood and Moonveil. Noobs are drawn to use those weapons and are easier to trigger when pointed out they lack skill, creativity, maturity, and sexual activities. Just like Bloodhound Fangs, they are offended with minimal effort and float comment sections with juvenile insults. Moving on from the Rivers of Tears to the big weeb weapons. Starting with the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana. It's another anti-dragon weapon. It deals 30% against dragons and 15% against ancient dragons. And the other weapon is the Rakshasa Great Katana. This is a weird one. It decreases sound damage resist of these wielders while attacking by 10%. Lore Rage debuff. Incredible. Next we have the Twinblades class that has only one weapon to be covered, the Euporia. This weapon has the ability of buffing itself further by stacking 5 consecutive hits within 10 seconds. Has 2 tiers of bonus in damage, first increases by 17.5% and the second one additional 5%. The unique skill of this weapon, called Euporia Vortex, will last longer when boosted by this ability to be double the amount of time when fully charged. Moving on to the Axes class now. The Highlander Axe boosts damage of roars by 10%. It stacks with the Royal Medallion Talisman. This ability works while this axe is equipped offhand. Power Sense 2 Highland Axe does not increase the damage further. Next you got another Celebrant weapon, the Celebrant's Cleaver. Same effect as the previous one, gives 10 runes on each hit on an enemy. Again, there is no delay between hits, and make it very clear that you need to hit the enemy with this weapon for this ability to work, so having one of these weapons equipped offhand won't trigger this ability. Which is different from the next weapon, the Sacrificial Axe. This weapon gives 4 focus points whenever enemy dies in the vicinity of its user. That not only means that you can have it offhand while you two-handling a weapon of your choice, but also you don't need to deal the final blow of an enemy to trigger. This ability stacks with the Sword of Milos and the Ancestral Horn Talisman. Keep in mind though that Power Sense 2 Sacrificial Axe does increase the amount of FP gain. This ability is used for a lot of situations, but especially if you're being summoned to another world. Now this one I didn't know before making this video, but the Ice Ring... Okay, I don't know if it is Ice Ring or Ice Ring. The Ice Ring hatch has 20% bonus damage against dragons and 10% against ancient dragons. The item's description doesn't say anything about extra damage against dragons, just that it's supposedly made of a scale of a dragon, aka Borealis. Half-Life 3 confirmed! Next we have the Ripple Blade. What is unique about this weapon is that it is an arcane one that uses smith stones to be upgraded that cannot be infused with Ashes of War, but it can be buffed with magical spells or consumables. And it scales really well with creases that are boosted by arcane levels. Those are Poison, Blood, Soporific and Eternal Sleep creases, especially the drowsing versions. The Ripple Blade got nerfed recently, but it still inflicts a lot of status build up. And for the last axe, we have the Smith Script Axe. I'm just going to put it on the Smith Script weapons because they are relatively new to the game, and some people might not have noticed a special ability that throws the weapon, most of the time on heavy attacks. In case of the Smith Script Axe, they have when jumping attacks throws them as projectiles. Also something common about the Smith Script weapons is that they use Smith Stones to be upgraded, cannot be buffed with magical consumables, but it can be infused with Ashes of War, as long as they don't add elemental damage to the weapon. So unfortunately, this weapon is not gonna fit your Kratos build number 17,876. Nephews, that wasn't a glitch. At least not on your end. My computer actually died on this point during editing. After 10 years of slave labor, yes, 10 years, my graphic card finally died. I was making video on a GTX 970 this whole time.
Oh my god.
Why? Because I'm a millennial, aka poor. Let's all make 1 minute of silence in respect of my water MSI GTX 970 with 4 GB of RAM. Okay, that's enough, let's go back to weapons. From the small pony axes, we are now moving to the Greataxes. There's only 2 to talk about, they are almost identical, literally. First is the Butchery Knife, that heals 1% of maximum HP for every hit land. This boost only work when the weapon itself lands the attacks, so just having offhand won't work. And the second one is the most rarest, creative and mind-blowing 3D model of any video game, is the Bunny Butchery Knife. By the way, I switched the web of the character on the screen. It does have the same thing as the normal Butchery Knife. The requirements, the 1% HP healing. The differences are, it scales better with strength instead of dexterity, uses somber smith stones to be upgraded instead of the common smith stones, and it comes with a unique skill called Honey Blade. Okay Nephews, this skill is currently really bug. What it's supposed to do is increase damage by 6% and gives an additional 1% HP heal per hit. That kinda works, but there's also a lot going on. I made a video recently covering it more in depth that you can check on the info card on the screen right now or in this video description. To make it very short, when you use the ability, all hits that you landed in this weapon while it was not buffed with this skill will heal you for that amount. That's why sometimes you heal nothing when you activate the skill, and sometimes you get a little, 1/3, or even half of your health back. There's even more bugged stuff about this skill that you can check on that video. You can power sense it with the Butchery Knife for dual healing, buff the Bunny one to have a weapon healing for 1% and 2% respectively. Also works using 2 buffed Bunny Butchery Knife. What a mouthful. For a split of 2 and 2% in healing. Let's leave that mess behind and move to the Hammers class. What I'm about to talk is probably the most useful information in this video, just like the weapon itself. The war pig used to have the wrong information on its info, saying that it deals strike damage, but this weapon deals exclusively the pierce type instead. Its description always been right though, but they have finally fixed this oversight. I just don't know if it was fixed with the release of the DLC or one of the hot fixes after. Next we have a Giga Chap weapon, belonging to another iron version, the Replica. This weapon is one of the few that uses Sombersmith stones that can be buffed with spells or consumables. And the Flowerstone Gavel that came with the DLC is another anti-dragon weapon. Deals 30% damage against common dragons and 15% against ancient dragons. Next class we have the Flails. The class itself has some very specific traits about them. Flails attacks cannot be parried, but different from the whips, they can perform a critical hit. So that's why you cannot parry Knight Cavalries or Mad Pumpkin Heads that use this type of weapons. Flails also have a sweet spot mechanic where hitting with the ball of the weapon deals more damage than with the stick. Now, there's nothing hidden amongst the Flails, but the Bastard Stars is a gravity weapon that deals 20% more damage against gravity enemies. And the separate flail skill called Flare or Serpent can be boosted by the Winged Serpent Helm by additional 10% damage. The next weapon class to cover is the Greathammers. We have 6 of them to check. Starting with the Pickaxe. The deal with this weapon is that it's a great hammer, but it cannot be power sensitive with other great hammers unless it's another pickaxe. But the weirdness doesn't stop there, because it can be power sensitive Greataxes. I don't know if it's a bug or what, but that's how this weapon works in game. I made a video that covers where and how to find the pickaxe and a bit about it, which you can check in the info card or in this video description. The next great hammer is the Celebrant Skull, and you guessed it right, another Celebrant weapon. But the runes gained for landing a hit with this weapon is 20 instead of 10, probably because it's lower moveset. Next weapon on the list is a very popular one, the Great Stars. Most likely because not only it bonks hard, but it also has the ability to heal 1% of total HP for every hit landed. And the cherry on top is that it has bleed stats built into it, so if it has blood loss in Elden Ring, it means it's broken.
Which it is.
You can put the Prelate's Charge Ash of War for intense health therapy. Power Sense 2 Great Stars does stacks for 2% of total healing, as long as both weapons hit. And Heavy Offhand while two-handling another weapon won't trigger the healing effect, because it's very clear that this ability only works when the weapon hits a target. What is that? Another healing weapon order? So here's more. This time is the Great Horn Hammer, but it heals 3% on kill. Power Sense 2 of this does increase the bonus, but having one offhand will grant you the effect nonetheless. Next we have another Smith Script weapon, the Smith Script Great Hammer. Again, just pointing out that heavy attacks throws this weapon as a projectile. As all Smith Script weapons, it cannot be buffed, but it can be fused after war, as long as it doesn't have any elemental damage. And the last one of this class is the Black Steel Great Hammer. It has a unique guard counter move that creates a holy wave in front of the users, quite similar to common attacks of the Black Knights and Radagon's attack. This weapon allows infusion and buffs, so keeping that in mind if you wanna do some adjustments to your build. If you thought the last weapons were Giga Chats weapons, this one is for Terra Chats then, or something like that. The Colossal Weapons. Starting with the Dragon Great Claw, another dragon weapon. The bonus are 30% against dragons and 15% against ancient dragons. Next one is the Rotten Staff. No hidden or anything like that. I just would like to point out that its skill doesn't deal Scarlet Rot build up like the rest of the attacks of this weapon. The Fallen Star Beast Jaw is another gravity weapon. Like most weapons with this anti-ability, the bonus damage is 20% against gravity enemies. And the last of the Colossal Weapons is now the popular Bloodfiend's Armor. There are 2 things going for this weapon. First, it performs quite well with blood affinity, and the second, its heavy attacks creates a splash fire damage on a small area of effect. Now it's time to check the Pulling Arms, starting with the Spear class. And the first one is the Celebrant's Ripped Rake. Funny name, also very creepy. Again, another Celebrant weapon. Each hit landed with this weapon gives you 10 runes. Next is a Clean Rot Spear. Having this spear equipped will increase your immunity by 15 points. Works by having this weapon offhand, but having 2 Clean Rot Spears equipped does increase the boost further. And Bolt of Greathaxes is a dragon weapon. so it deals 20% more damage against dragons and 10% against ancient dragons. And the Smith Script Spear, again another Smith Script weapons. You can throw this weapon with heavy, running heavy and horse heavy attacks. Moving on to the bigger spears, that means the heavy spears class. The last description say it excels while on horses, but there is actually no bonus for this weapon when attacking mounted on turn. Next we have the Spear of the Impaler, cool name actually. This weapon, heavy, running heavy and horse heavy attacks throw the weapons at projectiles, and although it's not a Smith Script weapon, the projectile damage is boosted by the Smith's Talisman by 10%. And the Greatsword Spear, this is what I like to call the Noob Saruman Spear, because people that use this weapon think they're almighty and shit, but in reality they're super easy to backstab. Now let's move on to the Halberds, starting with the Lucerne and Knight Rider's Glaive, that have the same extra damage on horse, even though in the description there is no mention of such a thing. That's because they have higher motion attack value. Motion value are hidden values that determine how strong your attack is. Next on the list is the Vulgar Militia Shuttle. Just like the standard shuttle, it has the ability to ignore 40% of damage block, and for some reason Impaling Thrust Ash of War is boosted by this ability. Who knows what's going on inside from software. The Pest Glaive silently increases elemental damage negation by 2% while equipped. This boost works offhand, but having 2 Pest Glaives equipped at the same time does increase it by additional 2%. The Ripple Crested Halberd is very similar to the Ripple Blade, being an arcane weapon that uses Smith Stone to be upgraded that cannot be infused with Ashes War, but it can be buffed, means that it benefits a lot from greases that scales arcane, like Poison, Blood, Soporific, and Eternal Sleep. Just a reminder that Scarlet Rot doesn't scale with any attribute. And the last halberd is the Dragon Halberd. Oh my god, this weapon is ugly as fuck. Jesus, what a mess. I have no idea what is going on in its design. Nephews, in my honest opinion, which means shit, I think this is the ugliest weapon in the game. Anyway, as the name might suggest, it's a dragon weapon, but the boosting damage is not that high, 10% against dragons and 5% against ancient dragons. The next class to check is the Reaper class. All Reapers ignore 40% damage blocks. The Great Scythe has a passive ability that increases vitality by 35 points. Works when offhand, but doesn't increase the boost by any further while you have 2 equipped. The Winged Scythe ability, called Angel's Wing, not only deals damage, but it also applies a debuff on players hit by it that prevents the use of Flasks of Crimson Tears for 30 seconds. And the Obsidian Lamina skill, called Dynastic Sickle Play, kinda funny, is boosted by Ansbach Armor Set. Wise Man Headgear boosted by 5%, while the remaining pieces increase by 2%. Next we have the Whips, which all of them have 2 traits in common. Their attacks cannot be parried, and they cannot perform critical hits. The first whip to check is the Giant Red Braid. Its skill called Flame Dance is boosted by the Dancer set. And the second one is the Tooth Whip. Apart from dealing deadly poison, its skill applies a debuff that decreases stamina recovery speed by -8 per second on enemies hit by it. Because only players have stamina, this skill debuff is virtually useless in PvE. Only the physical and stats build-up should be accounted for. Now let's move on to your mom's favorite class, the Fists. There are quite a lot of them here. First, we have the Cathar, the Clinkbone, and the Veteran's Prosthesis. They all have one thing in common. The game says they can deal slash damage, but that is actually not true. They only deal pierce damage. Also, another misinformation game is for the Cypher Pata. It's a pure hole damage, so it doesn't deal slash or pierce damage. I guess because the data that must always be filled in all weapon stats, making this weapon have this weird oversight. The Cypher Pata also has a trait where its attacks doesn't bounce off the word geometry. Also, they cannot be parried, similar to the Coded Sword. Next is the Graphic Dragon. Now, this I didn't know before doing this video, but this weapon also falls into the Dragon Weapons category. This one in particular deals 10% more damage against dragons and 5% against ancient dragons that, if I'm going to be honest with you nephews, this bonus is trash. The next 4 fists are all from the DLC, and the first come from there is the Golden Fist. This is another smith strip weapon, so its heavy attacks throw the weapons at projectiles. While you have a two-handed, you will power stance then, so when you perform a heavy attack on this configuration, both fists will be launched. The Theolir's Hidden Needle have two things going for it. First is that its skill, Sleep Evermore, deals eternal sleep instead of normal sleep status build-up. And second is that this weapon skill is prioritized to use when equipped on the left hand, like skills on a shield. So you must be wondering, what happens when you have this weapon on the right hand and a shield on the left one? In this case, the shield skill is prioritized. Next we have the Poisoned Hand. Having this weapon equipped will boost all sorts of damage by 7.5% when poison occurs in the vicinity, including the users themselves. This ability also works when this weapon is offhand and if you don't have to meet the requirements to wield. Uncle tip here, use it together with the Kindred of Rod Exaltation Talisman and the Mushroom Crown headgear. And the final fist to check is quite similar. The Mighty Hand boosts all sorts of damage by 7.5% when madness occurs near the user. Also works offhand and if you don't meet the requirements to wield it. You can use the Aged One Exaltation Talisman and the Black Dumpling headgear that has the same ability type. Moving on to the Claws class. Started then with the Bloodhound Claws that ignores 40% of damage block. The Raptor Talons jumping attacks have higher motion values, meaning that this type of attacks deal roughly 10% more damage. Next we have the Venomous Fang. These claws inflict deadly poison build-up instead of the normal type. But if you infuse them with poison affinity, they will keep the deadly poison tickle damage, but will have the normal poison duration. For comparison, normal poison deals 0.07% of maximum HP plus 7 per second for 90 seconds, for a total of 6.3% of maximum HP plus 630 in damage. Deadly Poison deals 0.14% maximum HP plus 14 for 30 seconds, for a total of 4.2% maximum HP plus a 420 in damage. So when you apply the duration of a regular poison on a deadly damage tickle, the total damage will be 12.6% maximum HP plus 1260. Not bad at all. I mean, I still find poison weak in Elden Ring, but you know, I have higher priorities about the matter, like, why does it cause poison if the thing is venomous? Huh? And the last claw to cover is the Claws of Night that came with the DLC. It is not a smith strip weapon, but heavy attacks throw the claws as projectiles. These projectiles can be boosted by the smith talisman by 10%, and if the heavy attack is charged, the Axe talisman will also boost them by additional 10%. The Claws of Night also has a backstab attack commonly present in thrust and curved swords when charging a heavy attack and press the dodge button. Now let's move on to the ranged weapons, starting with the Light Bows class. And there's only one bow in this class that is the most broken, OP, World Devourer, Universe Daddy of all weapons in Elden Ring, the Harp Bow. This obliterator of time-space continuum makes harp sounds when fired, which makes this weapon's presence even more menacing. Next we are checking the bows, starting with the Black Bow that behaves like a light bow even though it belongs to their bigger brother class. Ansbach Longbow also behaves like a light bow, and I would like to point out that its skill called Fan Shot, where 8 shots are fired at once, actually consume 8 arrows, so there is no multiple spawn miracle being performed here. This is no Garrus mod after all, Nephews. The Horn Bow deals additional damage when using magic arrows. This includes Magic Bone, Cold Bone, and Spirit Flame arrows. Dwelling arrows are not affected, even though sometimes it may look like it does. That is because it increases magical damage, but it reduces physical damage. So, if it doesn't perform on a target susceptible to magic damage, that may give this impression of increased damage. The Serpent Bow adds 15 poison stats build up to all arrows fired from it. And the Earth Tree Bow enhances potency of golden and helic tree arrows. And the last class of bows are the Greatbows. There are a few to check. The Earth Tree Greatbow deals 20% more damage when using golden great arrows. Having another Earth Tree Greatbow equipped offhand does improve this boost further. Same thing goes to the Lion Greatbow. Its damage is boosted by 20% while using Radha's spears as ammo, but having another Lion Greatbow equipped doesn't increase this boost. And last of this class to check is Egon's Greatbow. Using Harpoon as ammo increases damage by around 17%. Having a second on equip doesn't increase this boost neither. Also, very important in this weapon, the harpoon ammo and the skill Egon Drake's Hunt do not have damage boosts against dragons. They are just strong under their counterparts. I made a video that tests Egon's items damage that you can check in info card or in this video description. Next class to cover is the Crossbows. There is just one that I would like to talk about, and that is the Full Moon Crossbow. It boosts the damage of the Meteor, Magic Bone and Cold Bone bolts. How much in damage? I have no idea. Now let's check the torches that have some useful abilities. The first one is the Beast Repellent Torch. As the name suggests, while you have this torch equipped, some animals won't attack the player. These include dogs, lone wolves, rats, giant rats, basilics, crystal snails, giant dogs that don't have red eyes, and bears that are not rune bears. You can have this torch offhand while you two-hand your weapon, and even not meet the requirements to wield it, that the effect will work. But as soon as you attack any of these animals affected by this torch, they will no longer be affected by it, and the effect won't work until you rest aside a grace, die, or reload the game. And the second torch is the Sentry's Torch. It has the ability to reveal invisible enemies. That include players using the Conceal Veil Talisman or Hinderbolt sorceries. It doesn't work on invisible scarabs, and I think that's just a small oversight, not actually intended to not work on them. And the last torch is the Lamenting Visage. This one is super bonkers. If you have fun with this thing, you know that its ability makes you go invisible, help you sneak near enemies. But did you know while holding the Lamenter's Visage up, it can block damage? Mind you, it is not great at it, as expected, but it can perform a guard counter like it was blocked by a shield. Oh boy, we are not done with this video yet. Now we are going to check the shields, starting with the small ones. The Pillory Shield increases vitality by 15 points. Quick reminder that vitality is the resistance to Death Blight. This works offhand and if you don't meet the requirements, but equip 2 of them doesn't increase it any further. I don't know why you would want to do that though. Also keep in mind that from now on, every shield that will be presented to you that have the ability to increase the resistance, be it from damage or status effect, you have these 3 traits. The ability to work offhand, you don't need to meet the requirements, and equip 2 at the same time does increase the ability bonuses. The Gilded Iron Shield. I like this guy for some inexplicable reason. Its descriptions might lead to a bit of confusion because it says that its shield boosts holy damage defenses, but it actually just have a higher holy damage blocking defenses for a small shield. Next is the Ice Crest Shield. This one increases robustness by 40 points. Robustness is the resistance to bleed and frostbite status. The Rift Shield is kinda creepy if you ask me. It increases focus by 40 points. Focus improves your resistance toward madness and sleep. The Performance Shield, another shield that I like. I like golden stuff in the ring. This one increases immunity by 40 points, which is the resistance to poison and scarlet rot. And now the small shield to rule over all small shields, the Spiral Horn Shield. Why is that? That's because it increases immunity, robustness and focus by 15 points each. Hey, if anyone from software is watching this video, I am available for hiring. I am specializing in balancing items in games using nothing but good sense. And the last small shield to cover is the Shield of Night. This shield skill, called Revenge of the Night, fires a magical projectile that scales dexterity. If you block with any attack with this shield and cast the skill right away, like a guard counter, the damage of the projectile will be increased by around 215%. Any type of attack blocked will do, it doesn't have to be a spell. Now let's move on to the shield's middle son, the medium type. The first shield we got on our list is the Black Leather Shield. This shield description say it boosts defense against frost, and that is true, but it doesn't do that by increasing robustness. Instead, it just have a special ability to decrease frostbite build up by 45%. And curious enough, it also decreases by 20% the other status effects. Probably a bug. Next we have the Blue Crest Heater Shield. It is not blue, even though its name might suggest it. The Twin Bird Kite is a neat look shield. It has the ability to increase attack damage by 5% and decrease damage taken by 10% while max HP reaches below 20%. This works offhand. To be honest, I don't know how much useful this ability can be, even on a rune level 1 run. And the last middle shield we have is the Great Dog Shell. It increases stamina recovery speed by 3 per second, which is around 7.4% faster. It might appear a weak boost by just look at the numbers alone, but it's actually quite useful. This boost in stamina recovers works when we equip the shell offhand. Now let's move on to the class of shields that Noodle Arm version characters can never use, the Greatshields. Start with the Icon Shield, and what it does is regenerate 3 HP per second. This ability works even when you don't have the requirements to wield the shield. It also works offhand, but equipping 2 of these does increase the amount of HP restore. The Dragon Claw shield falls into the anti-dragon weapons category and deals 30% damage against dragons and 15% against ancient dragons. Next we have the Eclipse Crest Great Shield. It boosts immunity, robustness, and focus by 15 points each. I tested it and this ability stacks with the Spiral Horn shield. Also, this works offhand or even when you don't have the requirements to wield the shield. The Ant's Blade increases immunity by 16 points. And the last great shield is the Jellyfish Shield. If you wonder how much is skill boost damage, the amount is 20%. But what I want to talk about this shield is its description that is a bit deceiving because it says it's vulnerable to piercing attacks, but actually is capable of blocking 100% all physical damage. I have no clue why it says that because you can clearly see in the status screen that it can block all physical damage. We are almost done, Nephews, so hang in there. Let's check the staves the game has to offer. The ones that I'm about to cover fall in 2 conditions that are created. They have unique ability or they boost specific sorceries. Because the game doesn't say the name of the sorcerers, only their school, so to say, I will be pointing out their names to clear any doubt, okay? Also equip 2 of the same staff on each hand will stack the damage bonus multiplicatively. So let's start with the Daggers staff. It boosts Stoner's Dagger sorcerers by 20%. These sorcerers are Rock Blaster and Shatter Earth. Yes, only 2. Next we have Azur's Glintstone staff. It has the ability for increasing cast speed of sorceries and incantations at the cost of increasing focus points consumption by 20%. It increases the cast speed by giving the wielder virtual 40 points in dexterity. What it means is that it considers that you have additional 40 points in dexterity only when calculating cast speed, which, if it was obvious at this point, is the attribute point that increases casting speed. Keep in mind that casting speed is capped at 17 points in dexterity. Also, the Azure Glintstone staff doesn't provide any boost in damage for the sorcerers belong to the school of the same name. The Lusat's Glintstone staff increases all sorcerers' damage by around 11%, at a 15% increase of focus points consumption. This boost in damage doesn't work when the staff is equipped offhand, but funny enough, the 15% increase in focus points consumption does work when it's offhand or simply on another hand while casting using another staff. This staff may have the best spelling scale of them all, but the higher cost doesn't make it the best choice unless you want to dish out as much damage as possible in a short amount of time. Next is the Carian Glintstone staff. Like a lot of staves, in the description say it boosts certain school sorceries. But the problem is there's a lot of Carian sorceries, and the game doesn't make it very clear what school each sorcerer belongs to. So to make it very clear to you, this staff boosts these sorcerers' damage by 15%. Carian Slicer, Carian Piercer, Carian's Greatsword, and curious enough, Adula's Moonblade. Having 2 of these equipped on each hand will stack for a total of 32.25% in damage boost. Next we have the Carian Glintblade staff. But wait, we just checked that staff. Yeah, Nephews, these staves have some really confused name. The one before was Carian Glintstone staff. Now we are checking Carian Glintblade staff. It is basically boost for 15% more damage some other Carian spells, those being Glintstone Phalanx, Carian Phalanx, Greatblade Phalanx, Carian Retaliation, Magic Glintblade, and Glintblade Trio. Having 2 of these equipped on each hand will stack for a total of 32.25% in damage boost. Moving on to the Carian Regal Spectre. This staff boosts all Full Moon sorceries by 10%, those being Rana's Dark Moon, Renala's Full Moon, and no, Twin Moons. My god, I still cannot bear the name. Having 2 of these will increase the boost by 21%. Staff of Loss boosts invisibility sorceries by 30%. Now that is a confusing name because it implies sorceries like Hidden Form or Hidden Armament, but it actually boosts Night Shard and Night Combat. Although Ambush Shard belongs to this sorcery school, it is not boosted by this staff. Man, this game has some inconsistencies that I will never understand. If we equip 2 of these at the same time, the boost of damage will be 69%. Nice. Next is Gelmir Glintstone Staff. This one is specialized in boosting Magma sorcerers. Those are Magma Shot, Rolling Magma, Gelmir's Fury, and Rykard's Rancor. Using 2 of these at the same time boosts Magma sorcerers damage by 32.25%. The Crystal Staff focus boosting sorcerers of the namesake school, but not all sorcerers with crystal on their name belongs to this school, for some reason. Those are boosted by this staff are Crystal Turret, Shattering Crystal, and Crystal Release. This one sounds more like a euphemism for a rock hard poop if you ask me. These sorceries are boosted by 10% or 21% if you equip 2 of these. Crystal Barrage and Crystal Burst are not boosted by this staff. The Rotten Crystal Staff is a weird item because it's almost exactly the same as the standard Crystal Staff. The only difference that I notice, which is a rather useless one by the way, is that if you physically attack with this staff, you deals 15 Scarlet Rot build up. Why would anyone attack with this staff instead of casting this sorcery? Well, in a very very specific situation where you can put Spinning Armament Ash of War on it to apply Scarlet Rot on an enemy vulnerable to... Oh wait! You cannot apply Ashes of War to this staff, so like I said before, useless. And that is the only difference between these 2 staffs, Nephews. I hope that eliminated any question you had on this subject. Let's move on to the next staff, the Meteorite Staff. This one is quite popular in early game for having high sorcery scaling that is relatively easy to get. The downside to that is that it cannot be upgraded, so it will be outclassed by other staves later on. It boosts Gravity sorceries by 30%, those being Rock Sling, Gravity Well, Collapsing Stars, Meteorite, Meteorite Astal, Gravitational Missile, and Blades of Stone. 2 of these equipped increase the boost by nicely 69%. Staff of the Guild, also known as the Marshmallow Staff, boosts Thorn sorceries by 20%. Those are Briars of the Punishment, Briars of Sin, and Impenetrable Thorns. But here's the deal with this staff. It is really good if you have high levels of faith instead of the expected intelligence to cast sorceries. But if you want to cast Thorn sorceries and take the most damage out of those, the best you can do is use this staff offhand while casting using the Albenatic Staff. That means a build around Thorn sorceries will focus more arcane than anything else. And let's take the chance and check the Albenatic Staff next, which has not much going for it other than it scales better with arcane. That means not only better for Thorn sorceries round damage, but it's also the best at increasing blood loss build up from those sorceries. Otherwise, it doesn't boost any type of sorcery school. Next on the list is the Prince of Death's Staff. Sounds more like a microphone stand for a shitty black metal band. This staff increases death sorcery damage by 10%. I told you this shit screams edgy metal bands. Death sorceries are Rancor Call, Ancient Death Rancor, Explosive Ghost Flame, and Tibia Summoner. Jesus Christ, these names all scream edgy lord. In case you didn't know, the Staff of Great Beyond works both at casting sorceries and incantation. It is in the description. It scales both on faith and intelligence equally instead of favoring one attribute. And we are finding the last staff on the list. Good, because I got tired of writing the script of the staves. Well, this last one is the Maternal Staff. Your mom loved this one, not because I call her mommy sometimes, but because it boosts finger sorceries by 15%. And those are Cherishing Fingers, Fleeting Microcosms, Glintstone Nail, and Glintstone Nails. Yes, the difference in the name between these last 2 is just a plural. I was going to do a joke about these 2 sorceries and your mom, but that might be too much for YouTube. Equipping 2 Maternal Staffs boosts finger sorceries by 32.25%. Keep in mind that I gave you all these values when 2 of the same staffs are equipped, just as extra info. In most cases, it isn't the best way to maximize damage. If it is what you want, keep the specialized staff in your offhand and cast the sorceries using a staff that has higher sorcery scaling, and this sorcery scaling value must be whatever % higher than the boost that specialized staff gives to a given sorcery. Got it? No? Then just go back and listen to what I just said, because now we are going to check the sacred seals. These are religious, fanatical, chubby, cute animals that inhabit the coastline of Mongolia. But because Elden Ring is a cool game, but not that cool for not having Mongolian zealot seals, we are sticking with the piece of pebbles used to cast incantations. I would like to start from the Earth Tree seal so I can clarify that this seal does not boost Earth Tree incantations. Also keep in mind that healing incantations only scales the faith part of incantation scaling. So this seal ended up being the best for healing because it scales solely on faith. But it also at high level faith like 70, it surpasses all other seals in incantation scaling anyway. Most of the time it's better to cast whatever you like with this one and use the seal that boosts the incantation you're casting on the other hand. All you have to do is check to see if the incantation skill of the Earth Tree seal is X% higher than the boost the specialized seal gives. Now the Golden Order seal, on the other hand, boosts some incantations, those being from the namesake school: Disc of Light, Triple Rings of Light, Litany of Proper Death, and Radagon's Ring of Light. The boost is 10% more damage for this seal, and use it 2-on-1 seal boost for 21%. You can also use the Radiant Gold Mask for additional 10% more damage. Next is Gravestone Seal. This is the seal specializing in boosting Dragon Cult incantations damage by 15%. There are a lot of incantations boosted by this: Lightning Spear, Knight's Light Spear, Ancient Dragon Light Spear, Light Strike, Ancient Dragon Light Strike, Honey Bolt, Frozen Light Spear, Lansax Glaive, Fortisax Light Spear, and Death Lighting. Electrify Armament, Dragon Bolt Blessing, Vike's Dragon Bolt, and Electro Charge are Dragon Cult incantations, but for some reason they are not boosted by this seal. The boost for the incantations that work with it while having 2 Graves on the seal equipped is 32.25%. And you can also increase the damage even further by equipping the Death Knight set, which each piece increases damage by 2%, or you can consume the Priestess Heart for additional 20% boost in damage. Next we have the Giant Seal. This seal boosts giant flame incantations, which are... oh my god, these names are hilarious. Let me get into character for this. Oh, flame! Burn of flame! Surge of flame! Roar of flame! Flame of the fell god! And flame fall upon them! What the fuck? These incantations are boosted by 20% when casted from Giant Seal. Using 2 of them will boost damage for 44%. The Godslayer Seal boosts Black Flame incantations by 10%. Those are Black Flame Ritual, and Scorching Black Flame. Black Flame Blade and Noble's Presence are not affected by this seal. Wielding 2 of them boosts damage by 21%. The Clawmark Seal boosts Bestial incantations by 10%. Wielding 2 of them give 21% boost. And because this seal scales heavily on strength, 2-handed with this seal increases the strength portion of the incantation scaling by 15%. Also a reminder that the Chinpedea can boost these incantations by additional 10%. And the incantations that are part of Bestial School are Bestial Sling, Beast Claw, Stone of Gurak, and Gurak's Beast Claw. Next on the list is the Frenzied Flame Seal. This one's a chore to get in game. It boosts Frenzied Flame incantations by 20%. These are Flame of the Frenzy, Unendurable Frenzy, Hour Sharp Reading, Frenzy Burst, and Bitterest Flame of Frenzy. Using 2 of the seal at the same time boosts damage of these incantations by 44%. Keep in mind that although the seal focuses on both Frenzy Flame incantations and it deals 55 points of madness build up even to its user, it does not increase madness build up that those incantations inflict. If that's what you want, you better use the next seal on this list. The Dragon Communion Seal, because they scale with Arcane and that helps with status build up that some incantations have, like Frenzy Flame we just saw. This seal boosts Dragon Communion incantations by 15%. Those are many: Dragon Claw, Dragon Fire, Dragon Ice, Dragon Maul, Rail's Roar, Agios Flame, Exix Decay, or Exax, I don't know, Borealis Mist, Glintstone Breath, Smaragd Glintstone Breath, Rotten Breath, Magma Breath, Theodoric's Magma, Ghost Flame Breath, Bale's Tyranny, and Bale's Flame Light. Having 2 of these equipped increase damage of these incantations by 32.25%. Now we are going to check the seals that came with the DLC, starting with the Dryleaf Seal, which boosts by 15% on quote, Ring of Light incantations, end quote. So it's not exactly a school of incantation. These incantations are Discus of Light, Triple Rings of Light, Radagon's Ring of Light, and the new multi-layer Ring of Light. Using 2 of these seals at the same time will boost this incantation by 32.25%. You can also use a Radiant Gold Mask for additional 10%. On some builds, the Golden Order seal will have much better incantation scaling than this seal, but keep in mind that the multi-layer Ring of Light is not a Golden Order incantation, so it's not boosted by it. Next, we have the Fire Knight seal. This one boosts damage of the new fire incantations from the DLC by 15%, those being Rain of Fire, Fire Serpent, and Mesmer's Orb. The boost will be 32.25% if 2 of these equipped at the same time. And finally, oh my god, Nephews, we are the final item in this video. I cannot believe it. I thought it would have never end. I almost cry. Not because my time with you is almost over, but because it took fucking forever to write the script of this video. Jesus Christ. Anyway, the last item is the Spiral Tree seal. This cockroach-like seal boosts Spiral Tower incantations by 20%. And here comes the wacky From Software moment we always expected. There are 6 incantations on this school, but only 3 of them are affected by this seal. Those being Spira, Golden Arcs, and Giant Golden Arc. Yeah. Watchful Spirit, Divine Beast Tornado, and the Super Trash Divine Bird Feather are not affected by it. God damn it, Miyazaki. Let the fucking birds have some fun, dude. Oh my god, it's over. It's finally over. I have been testing and writing for this video since the first week of October, but we finally made it to the end, Nephews and Nephews. Remember that there are a lot of items to cover in this video, and I most likely let some slip by. Let me know in the comments below if you remember an item that has an obscure or hard to notice ability that I should include in this video. When I collect enough information, I will make an updated version of this video. And for your contribution, you will be awarded with your username credit for pointing out an item being added to the video. Isn't that awesome, nephew? Next, I plan to make a video on each class of weapons, covering all items in detail from ability to tips on how to add it to our possible builds. So if you're interested in it, make sure to subscribe to your new favorite uncle. And don't worry kids, I'm not a PDF file. I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, consider leaving a like. Thank you for watching. Take care, nephews.